Hello and welcome. I'm Felicity Ezewuike. Our first stop today is Africa and the prospect of artificial intelligence. On the sidelines of the 56th session of the Economic Commission for Africa Conference of African Ministers of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, experts agreed that artificial intelligence, AI, presented massive development opportunities for Africa if the right policies and infrastructure were in place. Speaking at a panel discussion on fostering prosperity through policies and artificial intelligence in Africa, Ousman Bah, Minister of Communications and Digital Economy of Gambia, said it was important to have the right policies to regulate the use of AI and also avert its risk. But Africa should not wait to have the regulations in place in order to embrace technology. Research does show that the technology has the potential to contribute up to $15.7 trillion to the global economy by 2030, of which $1.2 trillion could be generated in Africa, representing a 5.6% increase in the continent's gross domestic product by 2030. Another expert in the field, Fayaz, the Deputy Executive Director, Field Results and Innovation for the UN, United Nations Children's Fund, said necessary strategies were important to ensure that all approaches to AI, from development, deployment to use, are in the public interest. Baratang, Miya, the CEO of Girl Hype Coders Academy, said there should be a balance in policy development and humanity to ensure that the AI technology does not take over. There was a consensus that governments need to establish ethical framework on the development and deployment of AI through data privacy, security, transparency, and accountability in AI systems. Well, to discuss this, I am joined by Osaretin Agbonavbare. He is a human-computer interaction specialist as well as founder of bbcmgtAI. He joins me from Houston, Texas. It's good to have you with us. Thanks for giving us your time. Thank you for staying with us. We now have our guest, Osaretin Agbonavbare, joining us from Houston, Texas. It's good to have you on one slot. Thanks again for giving us your time.
Thank you.
Talk to us, in as brief a summary as you can, the evolution and reality of acceptance of AI in Africa.
First of all, thank you very much for bringing to the studio. The evolution of AI in Africa has been it's been a while. Just that most persons, because of the minds that goes along with it, people feel that there should not be a technology which we embrace, especially looking at the way Africa is. So looking at the evolution, it's been there for ages, but looking at it globally, for the past 20 years now, in the last 2 decades, AI has been around. And in terms of Africa, in the last decade, AI has been a pioneer phase. And AI is also something that Africa have come to accept, looking at the fact that the importance that it has been able to bring to the continent, especially in terms of driving technology. It's unbelievable what AI is doing around the world, and Africa have also been able to embrace it and also be a major player. Most persons feel that Africa is not a major player. I must tell you for truth that Africa is one of the major players in terms of the AI revolution.
How much acceptance is there for AI adoption in Africa? And what are these economic impacts that you alluded to that it has had in the continent?
Yeah, like I said earlier on, it has been accepted by the continent. But just because of some minds, because of some cultures and traditions, so some persons also feel. But in terms of those who are enlightened, those who are well schooled, they have been able to accept it in the continent, and it has also driven technology in the continent. And if you look at some people who are using AI around the world, discover that you definitely going to need an African, an Indian, a Chinese. They are all people who are promoting AI, and that has also made the continent to accept it. It's just that sometimes our governments, because of their policies, they don't encourage this, they don't incubate this technology. But in terms of the population, they're able to accept it, because look at some of the smartest gadgets that we use. You see most of them in Africa, scattered around. So those things.
But compared to the European world, areas like where you are at, and Africa, what would be the percentage of acceptance? You know, if you want to balance this scale, and do we still have some ways to go to catch up, or Africa is closer to bridging the gap in AI acceptance as in other developed economies?
Yeah, in other developed economies, just where the only difference is that they accepted it earlier in the last 2 decades, and Africa is just accepting it in the last decade. But in terms of in promotion, because if you look at most of these developed countries, they are more of older generation, and if you look at the continent in Africa, virtually like 80% of the population is under 30, and these are people who are drivers of AI in the society. So in terms of Africa place, if you want to measure it, I can say that there's a discrepancy between the acceptance in the Western world, because they knew about it earlier. But looking at the population, looking at the workforce of the continent, we'll be able to catch up in the next 2030, and Africa is a position to do that.
Do you feel that AI will indeed help bridge the technology gap between Africa and other regions? Like it or not, we still have some ways to go.
Yeah, because if you look at what most of these developed countries do is that they export some of the best brain from the continent over there. And so if these persons are able to come back to the continent in Africa, and you can imagine what can be done, just like what Ghana did some few years ago, where they have to encourage their citizens to come back. So if some of these best brain who are going out, which is it has its advantage and disadvantages, but at the same time, when they are back, you can imagine what the continent is going to look like. Because even with the little we are seeing, like even in fintech, where you use AI, you can see that the fintech sector in the continent is far ahead of what you can get in the Western world. So that tells you that Africa, in terms of acceptance, they are going to accept it as far as it's going to make them become better. And so far, the only difference is that they accepted it earlier in the last 2 decades, and Africa is coming, but with the population, we're going to match up.
Okay, the optimism is really impressive, but are there any projects or maybe initiatives that is underway in Africa promoting AI development? Is there any that you know of?
Yeah, there have been a lot of projects ongoing in there are some incubation centers, been cohorts, boot camp in the continent around, like in Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, South Africa, Morocco, Egypt. There are a lot of boot camps where AI and the data science is being taught. People are being trained, and these are things that are promoting. And if you look at even people who like in terms of freelance, discover that people from the continent, they're able to upskill themselves with some of this technology that they provide these services as a form of freelance to those in the Western world. So I think Africa is in the right position to leverage on this technology. So there have been a lot of programs, just like what our organization is doing, which is AI for Blacks, trying to make more Blacks, not just in Africa alone, Blacks all over the world, to get more involved in AI. Because what I would like to note is the frontier of the world. It's something that it has come to stay. We just need to utilize it because it's making the world more faster and more efficient. So we need to follow.
Okay, one of the concerns raised at the UN gathering that I mentioned at the opening of this program was the necessity to create strategy that approaches AI development from the angle of a public interest. So I want to ask, what should be the ethical considerations surrounding AI implementation in Africa? For someone who is from the continent, what would you promulgate?
Yeah, looking at the ethical consideration, just like what we also talked about, because I was one of the conveners of the UN Science Summit during the UN General Assembly here in New York, where we talked about how we could actually engage more people in STEM and especially in AI. And yes, we talked about the ethical consideration. Yes, there's a lot of disadvantage that comes with it, but we can also shy away from some of the advantage because that is what I've heard the continent backward. I remember when I was having a conversation with my PhD supervisor saying that, oh, I want to do a research on AI. She was kind of, I'm not sure I'm able to do that. So there's still a lot of mindset that need to be changed as regarding that. So in terms of the ethical consideration, I think what we could actually recommend is that as much as this technology is being created, we should also be thinking of how we could actually mitigate some of these disadvantages. Like for children, there should be technology that should be at their own level, and for those who are being scared. That's why in the use of AI, it's very, very essential that you work on your feedback system. So whatever feedback, whatever data you collect, you want to work on it. And some of these data talk about the ethical consideration, because just here in the US, there's already planned to scrap a TikTok because of some of the ethical considerations. So if those things can be created before this technology is being created, like when this technology is being created, you are also creating how to mitigate some of these ethical concerns right in the society. I don't think there'll be a problem because some of these advantages are just few, looking at the advantages that comes out from it.
For someone who is not very vast in your area, but I do remember the likes of Meta, Facebook appearing before Senate all the time. They talk about policies and regulations to keep the environment safe for users. I want to ask the same question of AI. What policies or regulations do you think, off the top of your head, needs to be considered if we are to support not just the creation of AI, the deployment, but the responsible deployment of AI in Africa, considering also our level of development and the level of penetration of science and technology across the continent?
Yeah, I think the first thing that we need to consider is privacy, because everybody want to be rest assured that whatever I'm having with you, if I'm using the technology, like it is between both of us or between you and me and your organization. So if that can be taken care of, because that is actually a concern, not just in Africa alone, even here in the States. So privacy and cybersecurity, that is also very essential. Continuing to also upskill more experts in this area, so that some of all these challenges, because you want to create a technology where it is not so secure. Safety is very, very essential in building some of these gadgets. We must make sure that the users are are very, very safe. So if we put some of all these things in terms of privacy, in terms of cyber security, in terms of giving people that confidence, as much as we are using your data, we're not trying to sell it out, because that's something that they have to be confident that none of your information will be sold out or be used for any political gain, because that is also a very, very big concern. And because once some of these government officials get hold of these data, they can actually use it to create some propaganda that which might affect the direction of an election. So if those things can be taken care of, I think will be better.
All right, away from policies, one other thing that was highlighted was the fact that Africa does not have adequate infrastructure to tap into the limitless, that's what is being described as opportunity of AI to, help us develop. As someone who is in that area, and you have something to do with a talent pool, so I would ask you what measures can be taken to build a strong AI talent pool in Africa that stays, not the one that keeps running off.
Yeah, like I said earlier on, the government need to be involved, because the government have been shying away from it because they are scared. They think that if we get more involved in it, we might not be relevant. So this is already happening in the advanced world, and they are able to manage the situation. So in the continent, the government need to be much involved, because if those policies are not there, it becomes so difficult to drive this technology we're talking about. The government needs to be involved. They need to create more awareness about the use of AI. People's mindset need to be changed, that it has a lot of goodies that we are going to benefit from. Just like I talked about the incubation centers, the boot camp, we need more of that, not just in some selected places in Africa. We need, across all the 54 countries, we need more incubation centers, we need more training centers where people can actually be skilled, because it is through those avenues that people's thoughts can actually be changed about the use of AI. And the government needs to change some of the policies that is on ground. It has been there for decades, and that cannot drive technology, that cannot drive development. So some of all these policies need to be changed. We need more persons who are in this area, because if you also look at the policies that are being drafted, they are being drafted by bureaucrats.
If the program, sorry to interject, but upskilling is one thing. The other thing is to keep because we have a Japa syndrome. For those that don't know, people live in Nigeria for other places. We call it Japa in this area. So that is a problem. Are there potential job displacements and economic implications resulting from AI adoption in Africa? Will people lose their job? Will it create more jobs? Because that's another fear about the acceptance of AI in Africa. People worry that we'll have automation, even an AI might begin to do my job.
Yeah, I think that is a misconception, and it is good that you raise it up so we can clarify that, because not just you alone, not just our audience, a lot of persons, even here in the state, have been scared of what AI can actually do. I must tell you the truth that AI is going to create more jobs than you can ever imagine. The reason is because as much as some jobs have been replaced, these machines, they cannot just think on themselves. So that will not bring about the soft skills, which you cannot give a machine to do. A machine cannot actually feel, it cannot actually adapt. So people still need to be involved in this area. So it's just that it's not be the traditional job. It's not going to be the traditional career where you have to go and go and become a lawyer, become an engineer. Some of all this traditional career will be replaced by AI, but it's going to create a different dimension of career where people become so smart. People become transcribers. People are becoming like they are earning a lot of money being a transcriber, which was not a job that was available before. People are trying to become a YouTuber. People are becoming able to write articles for submissions and all of that because of AI. So it will create a lot of jobs that you can never imagine. Jobs, it's not the jobs that are regular to you. So that's why I keep on saying that the continent need to upskill themselves because the life is moving so fast. As much as it's moving so fast, those jobs may be replaced, but you're going to be replaced with a lot of jobs. But those jobs will only be available to you if you're able to what? Upgrade yourself, upgrade your skill set to that level. And that's what
I mean, the day we stop learning is the day we die. Everyone learns every day. Let's look at all the benefits of AI. I'm going to lump them together because we're running out of time. Healthcare outcomes in communities, in African communities, and then agriculture and food security. How can AI play a role in these areas?
In healthcare, just during the pandemic, we saw a lot of tools, saw a lot of gadgets, saw a lot of softwares, web-based and app-based coming up that could actually provide telehealth services to people. So AI is being utilized in this area, even medical records. You don't need to go to the hospital where you start struggling to get the records. Those things are already digitalized just for you to can be at your house and at your fingertips. You can actually access every records for your own self. So that is one area where the AI is being utilized in the health sector. In the agricultural sector, we've also seen where drones are being able to provide like agricultural health services, extensions, where maybe if you have about 5 acres, it might be so difficult for you to get around or get people to do that. You can actually use the drone technology to actually reach out.
Yes, well, we've seen videos. We've seen videos of medicines being deployed using drones. All right, in 30 seconds, if you can, how can African governments and policymakers support the growth and deployment of AI technology and ensure wider acceptance because it is the new age? In 30 seconds, if you can.
Yeah, the governments need to change some of the policies that have been there for decades. Need to bring experts who are in these areas to formulate policies. It doesn't mean they're trying to take up their job, trying to take up their responsibility. No, we are trying to bring people, because if you have bureaucrats who are used to the norm, it becomes so difficult to drive technology. So the policy needs to be changed. When the policy is being changed, it becomes so easy to drive awareness and talk about it. People will start accepting it. But when the policy is not there, it will continue affecting the level at which this development of technology can actually reach out to across the continent.
All right, Osaretin, thank you very much for speaking with us. We appreciate the insights you have provided.
Thank you.